Hi, I'm Haley, your Director of Sales here at Angelica, and I'm so glad you called this meeting today. As we know, We Are Toys has closed, and that was our main distribution channel for Angelica Dolls. So it's time that we start thinking about other options for a distribution channel. So you've brought to me today grocery store option and department store option, and I'll be weighing the pros and cons of both. But before we can do that, I need to talk to you about the selling function. So this is very important because it's going to be what influences our customer to purchase our product. And this is based on their wants and their needs and their buying preferences and what's going to be the most convenient to them. This is especially important to talk to you today because it ties into the distribution function as well, because we need to pick a distribution channel that's going to be the most convenient for them and that caters to them specifically. So jumping right off of that, we need to talk about the target market identification. This is pinpointing exactly who we're marketing towards, down to the very details of the person. So I've created a persona, and this is a way that we can personify our target market. So here I've created a persona. This is Erin. She is her demographics is she's a mom of 3, and she has a 13-year-old boy, an 8-year-old boy, and a 5-year-old girl. So in this case, she would be buying the doll for the 5-year-old girl. She lives in Colorado in the suburbs. Those are her geographics. And then for her psychographics, she's a stay-at-home mom, and she has a business on the side, and she's involved in the PTA at school. And so this is very important because from now on, we'll be kind of catering to Erin's needs, and that's really going to help us bring our target market to life. So another important thing we need to talk about today is consumer versus customer, because in this case, they're very different people. So the customer is the person who's buying the product. So this would be Erin, and people like Erin, this is people who's actually going into the stores and making that purchase, but the consumer is different, and this is the person who's actually consuming the product. So this would be her daughter, in this case would be her 5-year-old girl, but this is like the little boy or little girl who's actually going to be playing with the doll. So the connection here is that we need to figure out where Erin shops and what would be the best way to get our doll to Erin. Which store, the department store or the grocery store? And we need to be able to cater to her specifically. And this brings me to talking about the importance of channels of distribution. So channels of distribution is how we're getting the product to the customer, and this is all based on their buying preferences. So just some examples. So if our target market, let's say they were older, like 60, 70, 80 years old, probably an online buying distribution channel would not be the best fit. And so we just need to look at the options of what's be the most convenient and the easiest and the most practical for our target market. In this case, that would be Erin. So, and it's important to think about how is it convenient, because if they cannot find a way to purchase the item, we're not going to make a profit, and that's our main goal. So, let's think about the grocery store and the department store, their pros and the cons. So, let's talk about first the grocery store. So some pros of the grocery store is moms and parents are already in the grocery store probably at least once a week. So that checks out the convenience box. They're in the stores already, and so they don't have to go out of their way to find the store that carries Angelica dolls. And also, parents bring their kids to the grocery store most often because it's a 45-minute trip. Like, they're not going to want to be getting a babysitter to watch their kids while they go 45 minutes to King Soopers. So they're typically taking their kids with them. So the consumer is able to be exposed to the product as well. However, some cons. The toy aisle in the grocery store is usually small and hidden, and it doesn't make the most sense. People go to the grocery store to buy food products and the things that they need for the week, but they don't usually go in thinking they're going to walk out with a toy. And also, I have a graph here that shows how often in the hundreds that aisles are visited per day at the grocery store. And as you can see, the toys is the lowest by far at only 200 visits per day, whereas the meat aisle is visited 600 times a day. So that's a con because it's not the most practical. People aren't going down those aisles as much. Another con would be additional shelf space might be hard to get. Like I said earlier, these aisles are usually small, and with all of the products that we want to show with our brand, there might not be shelf space that we can acquire. So thinking about the department store, there are pros and cons as well. So a pro would be the toy would be in the children's apparel section. So if kids are going with their parents, they're probably going to the children's apparel section, and they'll be able to be exposed to the product as well. And it makes sense for the children's toys to be in the children's apparel section. So that's pretty practical. Also, department stores usually have higher quality brands, and so it can show the quality of the Angelica brand, and that's good for the way that we want our product to look, and that can also help with pricing. However, there are some cons. Again, there might be limited shelf space because it's in the clothing section, the children clothing section, and there might not be as much space for the toys. And it's not as visited by the consumer. So Erin, our customer, might be going to these department stores, but she may not be bringing her child. As you can see from this graph, it shows that grocery stores have 47% come with their child and 53% without their child, but the department stores have 82% without their child and 18% with their child. So it's definitely a less likely chance that the consumer is going to be exposed to the product, which is different than the grocery store where we talked about how the consumer is usually going with their parent and they'll be able to see the toy. So just to recap what I've talked about today, we need to look at the selling function to determine what is the best way to get our product to the customer. And we can do this by looking at channels of distribution and thinking about what's the most convenient and practical distribution channel based on the buying preferences of our target market. And we kind of broke down our target market into a specific person, Erin. That is our persona, and that is our customer. So, and all of the things that we talked about today, we're trying to cater to her. But that is all that I have for you today, and I thank you for letting me come and talk to you today. I hope that we can follow up with further meetings because I think that we have some great options on our hands. We just need to play our cards right and really pick the right one. But if you want to schedule another meeting, just give me a call, and here's my business card. Thank you so much.